All right, 3, 2, 1, podcast.
Whoa! It's time for the podcast.
Hello, welcome back to the Phil and Ollie podcast. I'm Ollie, and Phil.
It's me. I'm Phil. What did you
Yeah,
think of my introduction? Pretty good,
I
right?
mean, I'll probably let's see. I'll probably include it in the end
Whoa!
product. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, that's exactly the sort of enthusiasm and energy I expect from an ex-Source FM presenter.
Yeah, yeah.
You come with a lot of baggage, and you come with a lot of clout.
I
So,
prefer to think of myself as not an ex-presenter, but as a presenter merely on a sabbatical.
really,
And
you're
I will
taking time away to
return one day.
study.
Yeah, to study, live my entire life, and then I'll return.
Hang on, did you pick your own name when you came into the podcast?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, I called you I called you Philip Judas Reeves.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I changed my
You
name to
changed it.
Phyllis.
Why didn't you like that? I'll put my spell on
Well,
silent.
why would you make me Judas? That seems quite rude. Like, what if I
I don't
betrayed you
know.
in some way?
I don't know specifically what I was referring to. I guess like a lifetime of disappointment.
Wow, it's just got quite extreme connotations. Um,
Yeah, what, you don't want to insult the Christian side of our
a
audience.
massive Christian side. No,
I guess they wouldn't be insulted, they might just associate you with.
betrayal. Like, it's
Yeah,
one of
but
the
I think
great traitors of all time.
because of what Judas did at that point in the Bible, I think he has a really bad reputation. But you've got to remember that before that, he was a famous DJ. He owned a menagerie of sorts, a traveling menagerie.
Traveling menagerie. Is that the
He
Bible? Yeah.
he was an internationally renowned Diablo player. He entered, it's like there's a lot more to Judas than just betraying the big man, the big
Well,
J.
I mean, you've made a good point in quite a sort of strange way that, like, obviously he was one of his trusted disciples, so he must have been doing something right to then get
Where
the opportunity to betray him.
Where is Judas previously mentioned in the Bible before that? Presumably he
Yeah,
is.
yeah, I think so. I don't know how much airtime he gets apart from betraying him, but he's one of his companions, so he
how
knows Jesus. So Jesus must have thought he was all right at one point.
how well versed are you
Scripture.
in the Christian scripture? Yeah,
I don't know. He went to a Christian school. I
I
don't
just
know.
remember the Riv de Grucci. All right, everyone, let's open up our Bibles to page. I'm
May
getting
the
mixed
Lord
up.
bless you and keep you. I can't do it at all.
Right, my friends. He never said that. I don't know. That's my way of getting
No.
into. It's more Maori. All right, there, Jason Brody. We were talking about Far Cry games, and that is from one of them. That's my way into
Uh,
New Zealand, I guess. Is that where Maori? Yeah, it is.
it's sort of like a Pacific Islanders thing, right? But the Maori people were living in New Zealand, but a lot of New Zealanders are not Maori. But there are also Maori people, I think, on other islands. But I don't really know. I think
Okay.
in like Samoa, that's how you're supposed to say Samoa. I think they're Maoris there, maybe, or maybe they're just Samoans. I don't know.
How do you know that that's how you're supposed to say that?
There was a comedian on a podcast that I listened to who was from Samoa who said it like that. So I've been trying to adopt it.
Salmore.
It
Yeah,
was
I'm
like
from Salmore, down in
from
New Zealand.
white bread. No, that's South Africa.
Well, I mean, like
That's Albin de Grucci. Yeah.
as ignorant like North Hemispherians, it's easy to get those accents mixed up. I think.
Yeah, it is. They're so different, but they sort of start quite similar.
Uh huh.
And so it's so
They
hard to
do.
not slip from one into the other. I think New Zealand is one of the hardest to do because Australian you can go pretty like both barrels and quite broad, but with
Hmm.
New Zealand you do need it's very clipped, and so it's quite.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, just like a little bit of Taki Watiti will
Yeah,
sort of get you in the right frame of mind.
yeah.
Anyway, this is our third podcast, number 3, the big 3.
Ooh.
How do you feel it's going? It's a big
I
question.
say our level of commitment has been pretty atrocious.
Explain, elaborate, please.
Well, just that we produced 3 of these. Well, we haven't even produced 3. We produced one of these in.
As of this moment, yeah, the number 2 is neither uploaded nor edited. Even though, yeah, I've been saying I've been going to do it for a while. I would say that I've been busy, but I've had a lot of free time. I've been, indulging in lots of various things, including like some things that I want to bring up later as points of discussion. I
Ooh,
wanted to ask you, Philip, did
yeah.
you prepare anything for this week, or is it more of the same random tangent conversation?
I wrote some notes down, but I
You wrote notes.
no that's overselling it. I wrote four things down.
Did you? I didn't write nothing.
Well, I wrote them down whilst I was waiting to join this call, whilst I was in the green room, if you will.
The green room. Yeah.
So
Okay.
they're not extensive.
Yeah.
The notes I wrote down were presence question mark, being on your own, outdoor swimming, and robot vacuum cleaners. Which
Okay.
sound like sort of like
Interesting.
they sound like categories from Pointless or something. But
They do. Or
yeah,
Jeopardy. Or maybe
yeah,
not
I'm not
Jeopardy.
quite sure what the questions would be. They'd be quite niche, I think. Um, but yeah, no, I just wrote those down because those are things I was trying to think of things to talk about that aren't my job.
Yeah, well, I guess that's been pretty consuming, right? When did you
Well,
start this job? You're not that long into it, are you?
in November, about the time we started this podcast, I have to say I probably
Oh,
achieved
Jesus.
more with the podcast than I have at
Oh, word.
work.
Oh, don't put yourself down.
Nah, yeah, it's not true. I've done all right, but it's
This is how broad I have of an idea of your work, right? I started watching a Netflix show yesterday about black holes,
right.
and I was like, this is sciencey, and it made me think of you, even
Oh,
though you are a world away from, no pun intended, from the world of astrophysics. You are
yeah.
very much in a different field.
What field is that?
Well, I would say, I mean, I don't know what your new job's about. You've put me on the
No,
spot. I guess it's to do with batteries.
it isn't actually, but yeah, that is what I did my PhD in, so that's the correct answer.
It's not to do with batteries. Is it to do with
No,
anything that's rechargeable?
it's just like a general role, so it's really like it's about whatever it's about, which is a tautology, but
You work for a company or you work for a government?
I work for a company, but the company's like it's like a consulting company, so we do jobs for clients, and whatever the client jobs are is what I do.
Well,
Um,
that's surely that is difficult because that's such a broad remit, right?
Yeah, it is. You have to be very flexible, and it's also a lot of the work we do is quite suited to people who do like a lot of engineering.
Hmm.
Whereas obviously I'm from a kind of science PhD background, so it's still very useful. And it's still the
Oh, you
same
mean
kind of
like practical engineering? You mean like
yeah, or like yeah.
applicable?
I think there's just it's just a different skill set. Like the lab that I'm used to is like a wet lab with chemicals in it, and you're mixing them up and you're heating them up and you're doing reactions and all that kind of stuff. Whereas the kind
Hmm.
of lab that we have is more like a physicsy type lab where there's like power supplies and you're doing soldering and plumbing and things. I'm quite good at plumbing. I did a lot of that in my PhD.
No,
But I'm not
no,
very
you
good at
didn't.
soldering. Well, like gas
Did you?
plumbing, yeah, yeah. So like for
Well,
this,
not like domestic plumbing, not like
it's
fitting
the same stuff, really.
toilets. Well, you mean like the whole pressure thing?
I
I
wouldn't
had
be
a very
very good at.
funny,
Oh god.
I had a very funny conversation with my girlfriend. I don't want to like, I'm probably if she ever listens, I'm going to get in trouble.
Girlfriends. Ooh.
But she said we were in the bathroom together getting ready for bed, and I flushed the toilet, and she said something along the lines of, you know how. Oh, you're just gonna replace the water, yeah? Because the flush is kind of broken. You have to hit it a number of times to get it to flush. And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, when you flush, the water goes away in the bowl because more water replaces it." And
Mm.
I was like, I said, no, it's because not that I claim to know anything about how it actually works, but I was like, it creates an imbalance of pressure, which sucks the water out of the basin, and the water coming down from the sides just replaces it. Is that anywhere near what actually happens when you flush a toilet?
I think your girlfriend's right. Yeah, because
Oh,
if you
she's
think
gonna
about
be pleased.
if you don't have a if you have a if your toilet flush isn't working, if you take
Yeah.
a bucket of water and you pour it into the loo, the toilet you will essentially flush the loo because in the toilet there is a U bend, so it
Hmm.
goes in and then sort of up and then down and around a sort of U shape, and you have to generate pressure above it to sort of suck it through that system. Once it rises to a certain level, it sort of is sucked through. So you're kind of yeah, I suppose you kind of are right in a sense because you generate I think it's almost like a siphon, So if you take a tube You put it in
Uh-huh.
like in a bucket of water, and you put the
Yeah.
bucket of water on the table, and
Uh-huh.
then you sort of suck on the end of the tube until it's full of water.
With a poo
Basically,
in there.
no poo. Well,
Okay.
there could be
I
a
was
poo, but
gonna
that's
say.
entirely up to you. Because then, if you were to take a second bucket and put it on the ground, and you put the
Uh-huh.
end of the pipe that's full of water into the bucket on the floor, so that
Mhm.
the side which is in the bucket is higher, the side that's
Mhm.
in the bucket full of water is higher, then you will
Yeah.
create essentially a pressure differential which sucks water from one bucket into the other. So, like people used to do this in cars when petrol prices were crazy, or in terrible neighborhoods. They would like you can essentially siphon petrol out of somebody's car. You don't need to pick the car up and tip it out. You put a tube in, you sort of suck on the end of it until you get the tube full, and then you push the end of the tube you want liquid to come out of to a lower level than the sort of high end of the tube is, and that
So
creates a kind of it creates a pressure difference. It wants to fall out of the tube from sort of both ends,
mhm.
but the end which is lower has essentially a lower potential.
Because of gravity.
Yeah, because of gravity. Is it fall? It's essentially you're allowing the water to fall from one bucket to another via a path.
Wow.
Yeah, and
There
the
you
sort of
go.
force acting on the water that's falling is greater than the force acting on the water that's rising, and so it will suck it all out. And I think that's kind of how a toilet works to some extent.
Okay.
And then once you
Well,
start that sort of start it flushing it, it does then create like a sort of suction behind it, which pulls it. I don't really know though. We could just look this up, but it's a bit more fun to just speculate.
no, it's more fun to be ignorant. Well, she'll be very pleased. I mean, we're less than 15 minutes in, and I've already learned, a scientific fact. In fact,
Mm.
that should be some sort of feature. You educate me. I still really think the scholar and squalor thing. Everyone I say that to, it goes down a storm, and I feel like you're resistant to it because you maybe are showing humility, a very
Mm.
natural humbleness. Um, but I think it works really well.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, it is a humility thing, but also I don't think you live in squalor.
No. Oh, yeah, this is the discussion we had, isn't it? It's insulting to people who do actually live in squalor.
Yeah, well, no, that's not it. It's just I don't know. I think it's very descriptive, but yeah, we can go with it if you want.
Well,
It
it's not
just
meant to be literal.
I'm already quite concerned with how pompous I seem, so I'm
What?
constantly wary about it. You know,
In what way?
just I'm a big know-it-all.
No, not at all. I mean, there's
Mm,
one thing. I mean, maybe you used to be in school,
yeah.
uh, but you
Oh,
you no, you're you're extinguished.
extinguished,
You're
distinguished.
a distinctly well-educated individual who has achieved a lot through in academia, and consequently, you shouldn't be afraid of showing that off.
No, maybe not.
I mean, I'm not saying I haven't, but like theatre studies is a very different ballpark.
Yeah, maybe you can teach me things like you can come with some lesson for me about like drawing the curtain back on how a television production works or something.
Okay, maybe. I don't know if I've got too much insider
You
information.
think
I
that, you think that, but
Yeah, I guess that's
genuinely,
true.
like half an hour on a set is like you learn probably a load of stuff that most people have no idea about. So,
I will tell you one interesting thing, and that is that if you ever see, even in any area, if you see any coloured arrows with initials on lampposts and stuff,
hmm,
that will so it'll normally say something like MAMLOC or E. BEBAS, like, and obviously that's location or base, and that's always pointing to a film set. So
hmm.
if you ever see those arrows, if you follow them, you'll eventually find a film set, which is quite interesting. In
Wait,
fact, in Bristol recently, me and a friend who went for a walk, and I saw one, and we followed it all the way to like this private house on a street, and there was a big film crew outside, and I went up and I was asking people what it was, and they were just like, I don't know, I don't know what this is," because there's so many people there who have no idea what's going on, like drivers and stuff
but
like that. So yeah, interesting.
why do they mark all the lampposts like that?
So
What
that
what is the
uh,
purpose of that?
so that people like me, humble little extras, can find their way to where they need to go. because quite often you'll drive, if it's location set, for example, you'll drive to the middle of nowhere. They'll give you a postcode, and quite often it's not completely accurate, and then you have to like use these little signs to find your way to some random field or something where they've set up.
Oh my
They've got
god.
no. You'll normally see a big load of. There's two things that give it away basically most of the time. One of them is a big catering trailer where
Yeah,
they're making on-set food,
yeah,
and the other one is a series of other trailers for the lead actors. Um,
yeah. Well, where I used to, where Ruth and I went to uni in London and UCL is there were always film crews outside ULU, the University of London, like Union. I think they were doing some serious filming in there, and there were always like massive trailers, and then there was the food trailer, and it's right by RADA as well. So maybe they were just I don't know taking people out of there, but
they wouldn't have been. I mean, there would have been it would have been a film set. Was that back in 2011 to 2014? Right, that was when
yeah,
you went
yeah,
to uni.
exactly, yeah,
Okay, then I don't
yeah,
know what that was. Like
yeah.
they've been doing a lot of things at unis and schools recently for sex ed, the show.
Oh right,
I don't know if you've heard of that.
I have heard of it. I've not seen any of it, but I saw someone did well at the BAFTAs. Maybe I don't know.
What, from sex ed?
Yeah, I thought so. Maybe I'm wrong though. Maybe I just saw a picture and yeah.
How would you feel about this, right? So there was a show being filmed last year called Brave New World, which I'm pretty sure is on. Like, we never signed non-disclosure act, so I don't know whether you are or are not allowed to talk about it. But Brave New World, I think, has been aired now, so it's fine.
Hmm.
And there was like it was an orgy scene that I wasn't invited to. Not invited. That's probably the wrong word. Like, it wasn't. I didn't see the call out for it because the agencies that get you work in a, it's not that you apply; they send you the jobs. Anyway, so there was this orgy scene, and everyone obviously had to be quote unquote naked, and by that it means the men got little like penis socks, tan colored loincloth type things that you wear on your ding dong, and then the women got the same sort of thing but much tighter, obviously because they haven't got that bulge to hide, more of a little slip. And so it was pretty awkward. There was a lot of simulation of sex. Apparently, there was a lot of making out with people you'd just met on the day, and it was really long hours. So you'd be doing like a sex scene for like 6 to 8 hours or something like that. Yeah,
Sounds great.
desperately trying to hold down a boner. Anyway, there's, but so normally on an extras day you get paid somewhere between, I don't know, like after commission maybe £80 to 120 if you're not using any special skills or you're not featured. That's
Hmm.
about the going rate, and that can be between 4 to 12 hours, something like that. It can sometimes be less, but you normally get
God.
paid a half day. Yeah, it's not too bad. It really, you don't really know what's going on till the day. However, on those days, the extras got paid like 250 to 350 a day.
Hmm.
And some of them, did it for 4 or 5 days. So that's like a grand
Yeah,
in
pretty good.
over a grand. And would you do that? Is my question.
Would I? For
Would
three?
Yeah.
No.
So you get no £300. I mean, I'm not quite sure what sort of pay rate you're used to, but for me, someone who, let's say, metaphorically lives in squalor,
Well, yeah. Obviously, it's a lot more than my personal hourly rate. Like at work, if I calculated from my salary. But
I
like,
expect you're going to say that the money isn't the issue.
well, no, it's not even. It's not. I mean, it isn't the issue. I think it's just I'm too far removed from that world. Like, I think I would
What,
really
the world of
struggle.
nakedness?
Well, I don't know. I don't really have a problem getting naked. Actually, I'm sort of okay with that. But I think not being like an actor. I think if I'd taken a different path, I don't think I'd have a problem with it. But I think
Yeah.
now
Okay.
I find it quite tricky. You know, when we were at school and you have to
Uh-huh.
do like plays, and like the first time you ever had to kiss someone in a play,
Yeah.
and it's really strange. It's not like kissing someone normally. It's
No, of
not.
course.
It's not very enjoyable. In fact, it's quite like nerve wracking.
It's very, when you're a teenager, it's very awkward.
Yeah.
Do you
So
remember? I mean, you and I were both in a play called The Road by
yeah.
Jim Cartwright, I believe, was the
Oh,
writer.
yeah, I think you
Lead
might be
writer.
right. That's very done. Well done.
And yeah, I remember you having to kiss. I can't remember her name. On a couch.
Yeah, I can't remember either, and that's terrible because I can see her face. Yeah.
It's
Anyway,
official proof that
I
we're
know.
not lads because there was no like, and I had to get off with Loz.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I maybe shouldn't say a full name. Anyway, but there was no like fist bumping or high fiving, which might have been the case had we been a bit more, like chads. But it
Chats.
certainly was. It was a bit of
Theatre
a
chats.
yeah, that's the right word, isn't it? Uh,
Yeah.
but it was yeah, it was. It's incredibly awkward when you're young. To be honest, like I'd quite like to do a scene where I kiss a guy because I would quite like
Mm.
to know how how comfortable I would be with that. Like where my like sort of comfort zone ends. I mean, I've not really had much experience in the past, so I mean, initially it'd probably be a bit weird, but um,
I think for an actor, like I don't think I'd find it. I never found it difficult. I think because of what it was, I found it difficult because I was an awkward teenager. But now I'd find it difficult because I'm an awkward, not an actor. I'm like another person. Like I'm too. I'm you know I'm I haven't acted in a play since for 10 years basically, and
uh,
I've not done anything like. It's quite hard to put yourself into that situation again,
but it,
particularly.
oh,
Yeah.
sorry, go on.
No, but also to put yourself out there. Like I wouldn't want to appear on TV in the nude. Like
No,
not that I
admittedly, my mother was horrified at the thought. To be honest, when I told her,
I mean, if I was an actor, I'd have no problem with it because
even if your mum saw it.
yeah, whatever. Like I mean, my mum gave birth to me, right? Like, what's she gonna?
Well, I think you were significantly smaller
Yeah,
and
I
less
know, but
developed.
yeah, I don't know. I think my parents have
Yeah.
no problem with it, but like,
Uh-huh.
it's too difficult to. It's too incongruous with my life now that I
I
think I.
suppose so.
Yeah.
But I think you would slip into it quite easily. I mean, it goes back to that old adage: the world is all a stage. All the
Right.
world is a stage. Was that
Nice. Yeah,
a
no, that
Shakespearean?
second time was right. Yeah, good. Now
See,
is the winter of your discontent. No.
you just give me two or three tries, I'll remember the quote. Um, but yeah, I don't think it would take. I really do honestly believe that anyone can act. There is the barrier between a person and the ability to perform or act a character or a persona is not the barrier is not skill related. It is to do with self belief and self consciousness. And if you can
Mm.
eliminate those two things, then I really do genuinely believe that anyone can be a proficient actor, especially on TV and film, because it just in some way it requires a completely different focus than it does on stage.
Yeah. I'd always quite like to have like tried any sort of film or television acting because it's so much smaller, right? It's such a more of a like a naturalistic style. Like,
Hmm.
because all stage acting by definition is it's not entirely naturalistic, even if you're attempting that as a sort of stylistic choice. You have to project your voice
Absolutely.
at a level which you would never speak at in a normal situation. So you can't physically like you've got to give it large for the cheap seats. And
Yeah.
even if you're doing somewhat naturalistic, like you're trying to make your facial expressions natural, you're trying to think about like I think you always have to turn it up a little
Yeah.
for the stage.
Yeah, well,
Um,
that's why promenade performance is so interesting. Promenade is just it's a type of staging that is you mean it's you're when you're with when you when oh what's the right way of putting it, like when there's no official stage, like
mm,
everything is a stage, when you're walking around a room, or
yes,
it's like more of an installation type thing, but obviously there is acting going on. um and that in that sense you can make it a lot more intimate, a lot more personal. But you're right. In fact, I've read quite a few I suppose studies that would say that all theatre acting is melodrama to some extent or other. That's a
mm,
very general statement, but like in essence you are absolutely right. And one thing I thought about TV very recently is that focus in stage tends to be, unless you use lighting or a very specific method, the focus on stage where the audience is looking tends to be where the action or audio is coming from.
mm,
Whereas in film, you can have a shot which shows someone's reaction who is looking or reacting to action
yeah,
or audio, and suddenly the focus is completely and utterly about that person and not about what is happening. That's secondary. And so, yeah, you're right. And also, what I've heard a lot of people say is that yeah, exactly like you said. Like on stage, it's played up, the reality is played up, and on screen, the reality is played down because it's way more nuanced. And that's it's exactly right. Like I would really like to try a bit more screen and TV acting as well because I will be very honest about extras work. It's actually very rare that you get to act. Sometimes, like I actually just sent a self tape off yesterday for an extras role because we will in that job be very involved. It's for a juror, so
Mm.
you'll be very involved in what is happening on screen. You'll be very in
Visible.
involved with the forefront. Yeah, absolutely. Whereas I did Spanish Princess last year, and for most of the day, the camera was about, I don't know, 150 feet away from me. So, I mean,
Yeah.
me and a very good, not very good, a friend I made on that job. We just chatted shit the entire time. We just talked about whatever. He showed me he's a self-published life trainer. So he was showing me his.
Life trainer.
It was that classic thing of like. He was like, "Yeah, I really turned my life around, and I think you can as well." And I was like, "Oh, cheers, buddy."
Like, fuck
And
you, mate.
I was like, I was actually very interested because I'm actually a month into quitting smoking. You'll be pleased to know.
Oh, well,
And I'm
congratulations.
thank you very much. I'm taking it very seriously. Listeners might be able to tell every now and then that I take a bit of a hit of a vape because that is what is saving me at the moment.
So you're
But
transitioning.
he was talking to me about changing your environment and what it takes to turn your life into something, just to find motivation, I suppose, to be what you want to be instead of just living as you are. And yeah, he was that classic thing of like, as soon as I showed any interest, I was like, oh, actually, I am quite interested to know what you want. And he was like, as a matter of fact, I actually have a public book I've written. And he like pulled out of his bag, and it was
Oh,
like, oh, classic.
of course, you got
Yeah.
one ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was like, it was all mostly about going to the gym, and I was like, oh my god, like as much as I respect this guy because he's a really down to earth dude, I was like, how many of these books are there? Like change your life by working out. It's not a bad message. It's just how
Yeah.
when you saturate a market like that, especially one that is full of like bullshit already, it's like, well, like I just want a quite simple set of answers to how to do that, not
Yeah.
just like 100 different people telling me 100 different ways to lose weight or gain muscle. I don't
I mean, the
know.
best thing to do is like there are free guides on the internet and apps which are also free, which can help you do those kinds of things better than any random geek off the street who's got their own thesis about how they think you should do it. So,
Random geek. So reductive.
oh, like it's that's one of my favorite expressions to refer to someone as a geek off the street because that's. Do you know the song "Regulate" by Nate Dogg?
No, I don't.
Featuring Warren G. Well, no, by Warren G featuring Nate Dogg. I'll go listen to it after this. It's a classic of the G funk genre, but there's
Can
a
you
bit.
link it in the chat?
I will. Yeah, I'll do it in a second. But
I think it's important at this, it's important at some juncture in each podcast maybe to give a little shout out to Zencaster, the platform on which we are recording our podcast, because they are amazing. It's free, and at the moment during COVID, they are doing free unlimited guests and unlimited recording time, and it's just it's beautiful. We haven't had to worry about it really. I'm not forking out a ton of cash
yeah, it's
to do
delightful.
this.
It's
Hmm.
delightful. Yeah, see, I've sent you the video for Regulate. You just listen to that later sometime. You're gonna love it. It's a G funk classic. But there's a bit where he says you can't be any geek off the street. Got to be handy with a steel if you know what I mean. Earn your keep. And then he shouts, "Regulators,
do
mount up!"
you do you still learn the lyrics to gangster rap, or is that
You need
era
to
past you?
know all the
No,
lyrics to
you
gangster
know
rap.
the lyrics. Okay,
I
I
actually did
used
listen to
to.
some today, I have to say, at work. So I was listening to my usual kind of mixture of like, I was listening to Interpol or other like kind of quite low key
I
rock
like
music.
Interpol.
It's quite sort of
Hmm.
like, I don't know, quite drony, good to work to. But then for some reason, I clicked on like an old playlist from like my rowing days, and it's just loads of absolute bangers. So I was listening to some Mob Deep and like pretending I'm a gangster.
Wow, that's cool. You don't have to pretend. You can enjoy the music. Is
Yeah.
you don't have to pretend you are one. Do you still keep 222s in your shoes, or are those days past you?
I couldn't possibly say.
I love that. I still love that lyric. I sometimes listen to Notorious B.I.G. and that line like there's a party going on, then can I
Yeah.
bring my gat? What is that line?
um, Can I bring my cat? If not, I hope I don't get shot. Better throw my vest on my chest because it's a mess.
I always hear that, and I think, listen, Big, no, you cannot bring you shouldn't be asking that in the first. I mean, at least he's asking,
Thank
right?
God
That's
he
the
asked.
yeah,
Thank God he asked. Imagine if he
yeah,
showed up with his gat when the
yeah.
host was not happy about it.
Absolutely. You can't just I mean, maybe he's hanging in sort of different circles than like I'm used to.
All we want to know is where the party at and can I bring my gat? It's like,
That's right. Yeah. Can I? It's like what it depends what you're gonna do with it, Big. It
like,
like what are you gonna shoot someone? Because I don't want that on my property. I don't
like
want that. It's very difficult to get blood out of carpets.
it
But
is.
if you're just gonna bring it because we're all gun enthusiasts, then by all means.
It's not a shooting themed party. Then the gat does not belong.
The
Like,
the guy is wholly uninvited. And to be honest, if he's asking where the party's at as opposed to being invited himself, I think Big is probably invited too.
yeah, yeah.
But I don't know. I don't want to disparage the man. I'm sure he was very popular. I mean, maybe that's how you go to more parties. You just ask around.
I think he was such a big personality that people would just, if Notorious B.I.G. was like, "Where the party at?" I'd be like, "Well, you're dead." But also, I'd be like, "Yeah, come on round."
I
Probably wouldn't
mean,
have him around the house, to be honest. Not even.
what age did he pass away?
I think he was like 26 or something, or 25, like young. He was one of
Yeah.
the. It's a bit like maybe like kind of the classic age, isn't it? For people to burn out at. Maybe he was a bit older. I'm not
No, I
quite
think you're
sure.
right. I think he was mid-20s. It's do you think and I don't want to I mean may he rest in peace and I don't want to be disrespectful, but do you think that maybe his end came because he brought the gun?
I mean, he was shot to death, so yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Maybe he should have
Oh no,
I
did
don't
was
I
he
don't
shot to
know the
death?
details. I think you've told me in the past that he was he was killed by a gun. Whether it be a gat or not, I don't know. Hopefully not his own. But I would say if for anyone out there thinking I've been invited to a party or I've asked my way into a party, should I bring my handgun? I would say err on the side of caution. Yeah, maybe leave the handgun at home and bring something a little bit more low key, like the baseball bat with a nail in, or a penknife.
Doesn't flow as well,
Um,
you know.
no, it doesn't flow as well, or even just like a taser or some pepper spray. That's what I'd if you have to bring something, then I would say go with something more less provocative, right?
Right. What about this, Ollie? All I
Yeah.
want to know is where the party at, and can I wear this hat? No one's gonna mind. No one's gonna mind if you wear a hat.
Yeah. Okay.
Cat, like
Yeah.
he's got a cat. Like, are there anyone there going to be allergic? Like, my cat's a bit nervous. He won't want to be left at home. Can I bring him?
Where's the party at? Can I bring my auntie Pat? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
something a little bit
she's a
more.
legend.
Yeah, something a little more diplomatic. To get the party going as opposed to maybe ending it. Where's the party at? I can't remember where I was sat.
He's not quite
Sorry.
sure he's already had a few drinks. He doesn't know where he is. He's like, "Where's the party? Oh, where was I sitting again?" Yeah.
Yeah. Or where's the party at? I promise I won't shat. Like.
That doesn't work because chat is obviously the past tense. So
Do you remember when our college German teacher Alex gave us a vocab sheet, and it had "scheißen" on it, which is the German for shit, and then it had the present and the imperfect and perfect past participles. So, do you remember that? So
yeah.
geschießt was shitted.
Oh, is it irregular or is it regular?
I think it's irregular
Is it
because
regular?
the up and the e swap round, and then Schass with one of those big B's on the end, which I can never remember the name of. Was the imperfect past participle, I think, or perfect? I
I can't remember what that difference between them is.
but that literally translated as shat,
Yeah,
which is shat actually an English word? Is it? Would you find it in the dictionary, or is
I
it
think. Yeah, I guess. I think it is probably.
shat? It sounds like I don't know. It sounds like something that someone said on TV.
I remember. I associate it quite closely with Austin Powers.
I
Because we
shat on a turtle.
yeah, basically for that reason. Yeah,
Can
because
you remember any of the other slang that they used? Michael
it's
Caine
basically
and
all of
Mike
it,
Myers.
right? Like
Yeah.
they basically go in with. I don't remember any of the specifics though. Uh,
Do you remember the twins?
y-
Twins. Twins. Twins, Basil.
yeah, I do. It's quite troubling, I think, actually looking back.
Fuck me.
And fuck you, yeah.
Oh, you
Slightly.
are going the right way for a spanking, and I don't know who knows it. That sort of thing. Yeah. What are you going to say? Slightly
Well,
racial, like
it's a bit racially insensitive, isn't it? But the trouble is
yeah.
that it is a send up um, of James Bond, which is of course incredibly racially insensitive. So yeah,
Well,
um,
I mean, the best example of, I mean, parodying James Bond can sometimes be very problematic because, as you say, James Bond is already like fairly egregious. For
mm,
example, the Austin Powers, a lot of vagina, the character
yeah,
is tamer than the James Bond
galore.
Pussy Galore, which is trying to parody. Uh,
Why would that even be like your name? Like okay, so just hear me out here. That
yeah.
I've never looked at an attractive woman, and thought like, God, I bet she has a lot of a vagina. Like, why? That's
Yeah.
not, like the dimensions aren't important.
Yeah, as in what in terms of sort of traditional and conventional beauty
Yeah,
standards.
or like pussy galore. What? Well, I presume she has one, and it's
Yeah.
a normal size.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily referring to the anatomy of it. I think it's referring to the
Mm,
fact that she uses it a lot.
right, you think she's okay?
Yeah, it's frequently put to use as opposed
Mm.
to it's of abundance
Yeah, this is
in
sort of like
physical
copious,
appearance. Yeah.
copious clunge.
Oh, I love it. Whenever we say stuff like that, like in the last episode where we kept talking about foreskins, I'm just like, I keep imagining my parents listening to this and like
Hi
praying
guys.
like that. Yeah. I hope they understand that now I'm an adult, I'm allowed to have a sort of crass sense of humor as much as an intellectual one. And that, yeah, I'm going to go into detail. I just worried about my mum, really.
Come on, look, we've been talking about conjugating German verbs on this podcast, so
That's
we are
true.
true intellectuals. I actually looked it up. It is regular, which you'll be, you do want your shits to be regular.
Oh yeah, okay, all right then. Yeah, for sure. That makes more sense. I
Well,
have to say, right, I think the mixture of gutter and intellectual humor that we both enjoy is very, very well what's the word, illustrated by the fact that we talked about how the scientific way of in which toilets work. I think that's a perfect illumination of the fact that both the toilet itself and the way it works can be of humorous nature. We're
just
not here for lols. We're not just here for the lols. We're here for the learning and the
yeah,
lols.
agreed.
Anyway, I would like to know what's going on with your list. To be honest,
Yeah, I haven't really got. We I haven't even started on the list, are we?
well, I mean, it's only ever a backup, but I've just thought back to it now, and I didn't really understand any of them.
Context.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's pretty simple, really. I got to buy Ruth a birthday present, so I put presents on the list. You're good
Okay.
at getting presents.
Oh,
I
that's
always I always thought you did so.
erroneous, but kind of you.
No, I think it's true. Because if you look at things like often with present, it really is the thought that counts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think in the past you've done amazing presents for your family for Christmas, like your recording of
Oh
a
yeah,
Christmas
yeah.
Carol, a beautiful thing. I've listened to, I think only about half of it. I haven't finished it, I have to confess, but it
That's
became
okay.
not Christmassy enough. It was like,
I mean, yeah, that I must admit, the last 3 or 4 Christmases, I've done some bangers,
yeah,
and like I've been pretty proud of the fact that they're sort of non-consumery as well.
yeah. Well, that's exactly it. Because the one thing I don't want is to get more possessions that are not required. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to become a minimalist. Like I've got absolute boatloads of things, and I
Mm-hmm.
think I need them. But like, what I don't want is like to buy something which is unnecessary. So, I put quite a lot of effort into like a card. So I made a little card for Ruth on the weekend. I'm going to say this because there's no way this episode's coming out before Ruth's birthday. I made a
When is
card.
it? When is
It's,
the birthday?
it's next Monday.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so on no, sorry, next week. So I made a card and did a little pastel drawing, which is terrible. I'm so bad at it, but
Amazing.
spend some time on something.
Hmm.
It doesn't really matter how good it is. It's sort of
Hmm.
more about the act of doing it.
Absolutely.
But
And as
it's
long as it's recyclable.
it is, yeah. It's all paper. It's all paper. Well, I
That's-
keep all of my cards. I have loads of these cards, and I look at them sometimes, and that's nice.
of course, yeah. I keep
Yeah.
the important ones. Oh, excuse me. Oh,
Mm.
there'll be a gas there.
Yeah, yeah, lovely, lovely, mate. Yeah, great. Well, actually, that's something we did get as a present. So for like anniversary gifts, instead of buying each other things, the last 2 years, because we've been living together, we've put money together to buy something like a significant domestic purchase. So we bought
Okay.
a big, like Le Creuset um, cast iron pot 2 years ago
Oh,
for
nice.
cooking
A
bread
skillet.
in. Yeah, no, not a skillet, like a casserole dish.
Okay.
But
Very
yeah, like
nice.
we cook our bread in it, cook loads. It's great. Like it was. Might be one of the best presents I've ever bought slash been bought. It was been really good. But the one we bought this year, we bought a Soda Stream, and that has been absolutely dank during lockdown. It's so nice, just a bit of fizzy
Yeah.
water. Feel like you're on
That,
holiday. We call it
yeah.
holiday water.
I bought some fizzy water today because I'm trying to stop drinking fizzy drinks. So I'm like just using squash and fizzy water
Yeah.
as an alternative. I feel like it's working, although it's not because I've drunk Coke yesterday and today actually.
No.
Never mind.
Oliver.
I know,
Oliver.
I know. I was out today. I had a Caesar salad, so I felt like
You earned
I
the fizzy
earned
drink.
something. How long have you and Ruth been seeing each other? How many years?
8 years,
Whoa!
maybe more. 9 years.
Wow. Well, since you were 19, that can't be
I
right.
was 20. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
you're 29. Oh, you
I'm
were 29
29.
4 months ago, almost to
Yeah,
the day.
jeez, brutal. No, 3 months
I
ago. But yeah.
3 months. Oh yeah, no, that's it's bad maths. Uh, well, okay. So what you want present ideas? Well, I mean, if she hasn't heard of the cubes I did, then I would highly recommend that. But I guess maybe you
Mm.
want to do something a little bit more original.
Well, it's not even about that. So the reason I made the card on the weekend is because Ruth wasn't here. But now, when you live with someone, it's quite hard to make like a secret present. Like if you have to
Hmm.
make it, it's very difficult. I used to sometimes do them at work, but I don't really feel like I can do that anymore.
Hmm.
Um, because I'm an employee, not a student who works irregular hours. So
So you
yeah,
have a
it's
lab.
tricky.
You have a lab at work.
There is a lab, but it's not quite the same.
Have you
Um,
ever seen the film Weird Science?
no, should I watch it?
Okay. Yeah, it's like a late 80s classic where they two geeks from the street they create a sexy woman in their in their room, and it's sort of about just that's it. That's that.
Oh,
That's
it's John Hughes as well, so it's probably it's like Guy did Home Alone and stuff. It's a
uh-huh.
bit of a classic. Okay,
So
maybe I will
maybe you
watch it.
could use the lab to create a sexy woman
I
for
don't,
Ruth.
I don't see how that would help.
No, you're right. That's a terrible idea.
You thought sexy woman present, and what you've done is you've come up with a present which generates a sexy woman,
Yeah.
not a present for a sexy woman, which is
Yeah,
what
you're
I
right.
need.
Yeah, that is what you need.
It's
Yeah.
okay. You don't have to actually solve this problem, but
Well, I got some ideas. I mean, like, like I don't want to go too conventional, but does she like? I tried to stay away from buying. I have in the past tried to stay away from buying jewelry, clothes, makeup, that sort of thing, because I have a feeling that I will get it wrong. But
mm,
I mean, that's not always a terrible idea.
yeah, it's a bit standard. I have also avoid that for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's also because of what I was saying before about you don't want to buy things which aren't perfect because you don't want to have like like if you buy someone
Yeah,
some clothes, say
yeah.
they need a new top. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
good. You're going to buy them one. You
Mm-hmm.
get them one that is like 70% of what they could achieve on their own.
Absolutely.
But it's not. That's not really the right way to think about it because like a gift is like I do kind of enjoy clothing that people give me more if it's a present than if I'd bought it myself, I think. Because I might never have bought the thing, like, it might be a different color or something, and I wouldn't have thought of it. But
Is that because, I mean, how much do you care about the clothes you wear? Like, I feel like if I tried to buy Val something, she's very particular when it comes to the sort of things she wears and stuff like that.
that
So
sort of style, yeah.
I think I would never be able to. I mean, it's a shame to admit, but I don't think I'd ever be able to. Maybe once I get to know her a little bit better, but I don't think I would make the cut. I think it would be, and I wouldn't
Yeah,
want someone to hold on to something that I'd bought them out of guilt. You know,
yeah. I think it's just tricky. Like, and my go-to thing before pandemic would have been, oh well, we'll do something. Like we'll go on a little trip or something. We'll go away, or we'll do like a some sort of activity.
hmm
But now it sort of feels a bit like, even though things are supposed to be opening back up and we're going to be able to get vaccines from tomorrow and all that kind of stuff,
hmm
it's a bit that option is sort of shut down a bit, because we actually have loads of things queued up from like 2 years ago, from like concerts we were supposed to go to, and different like things we were supposed to do together. So
Phil has been DMing or GMing game. What does GM stand for?
game master, but DM
Right.
stands for
Okay.
dungeon master.
I see. So Phil has been GMing some D&D sessions that we've been doing recently. I think we're like done 3 or 4 now,
Yeah,
and it's been really fun. And Ruth's been involved. So why don't you? I mean, again, it's like it's not a great idea because we roll dice on the internet on a specific program, but you could get her some really nice like
exciting
D
dice.
and D dice set. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe. I think the problem with that is that that's really more of my instigation, and I think that
that's true.
yeah. So I think
Not very passionate
it's
about
quite
that.
dangerous. Yeah, I don't know. I'll come up with something. But I might. One of the reasons I wanted to bring this up is just because you've done some really cool presents, and I think that's like a. It's nice, I think, to
Well,
draw
maybe,
attention to that.
yeah, absolutely. I was going to say I'll go through them. I was going to try and explain the cube, but it's a bit long-winded. But these are some ideas for not for necessarily for Phil, but for anyone listening. If you're struggling, I mean, it's July, so if you're thinking about it now, then you're a better man or woman than I am.
Well, I
But
think about it now because you've said it. I mean, it's good. Get
oh
started,
yeah,
guys.
possibly. Okay, so like the first good one was I bought 5 hot sauces from the internet with
Yeah.
different ranging Scoville levels, and I did like a Boxing Day chicken wing challenge. So I bought like I have a pretty
Oh.
extensive family, so I bought like 80 chicken wings and made the 15 or 20 chicken wings with each sauce, and then we just did sort of rounds to see who could go the furthest, and whoever went the furthest won the hottest sauce. It was a bit of a bum prize, but that was a really good day because like events are always really good as long as they don't take as long as they don't take too much effort. Then the
Yeah.
next year, I think the year before that, I made everyone personalized albums, but that was back in the day when people were still using, well, somewhat back in the day when people were still using, CDs to play music. So that's like a bit dud now. But I bought CD cases and I made like custom sleeves and stuff. So that was really cool. And then the year after the chicken wings, I made these like picture cubes. They're difficult to describe, but basically they're glued together. I bought wooden blocks and they had 8 blocks per cube, 4 on 4. Yeah. And they were attached to each other in a way that you could sort of fold through them, which
Yeah.
would in turn display 4 to 6. How many faces on a cube? 6.
6. Think about it.
So it was 5. So one of them was blank because it wouldn't. It wouldn't. I think that was where you were supposed to put it on the bottom. That's where it was supposed to stay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But there was 5 other pictures on it, and my older brother had recently got married, so that was a very good opportunity to create something like that, and that was really good. I mean, lots of them are falling apart by now because I used like PVA or Pritt stick
I
or
remember
something.
you making them.
Yeah,
I
it
I
took
remember
me
coming down and you
so
making them. It took
long.
you so long, and
It
but
took
like
me.
a
It
labor of
probably
love.
took me. It was absolutely labor love. I love doing it, but I left it way too late, so I was stressed, which was late.
Yeah.
But I think it took me about 30 hours in total to make 8 of them. I made one for my girlfriend at the time, and then consequently, like a month later, broke up with her.
Oh
And
no.
she gave it. We were at her house, and I'd already moved to Bristol, and I drove her back. I can't remember what happened. Basically, we were at her house in Falmouth, and I was round, and we had talked. I talked to her about it, and I told her what was happening, and she was very sad, obviously very upset. And she gave me back the cube, and I said to her very, very naively, I said, one day you'll want this back. And she said, no, I won't. And then I've kept it because I thought
One day.
maybe she would get past the emotional turmoil of that moment and just want it for sentimentality. But I actually, in hindsight, think that was a bit of that was a bit of an oversight, and maybe
Maybe slightly, yeah,
that's
just a
dead
bit.
and I think that's dead and buried. That whole thing. I think she's absolutely moved on. Anyway, the next, yeah, and as you say, the year after that, I spent. This was another. I think this was 40 hours. This took me. I recorded the entirety of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens as an audiobook
It's
and
beautiful.
edited it, which is obviously the biggest part of it. But that was really fun because I want to train as a voice actor. I'd really love to do that. It's like one of my dream jobs, and it was a really good experience. And
What's
I
the only
sat
way
down.
to learn is to do something. I mean, you must
Yeah.
have, yeah, that must have been such good sort of practice, and the voices and stuff are really good. The editing is good, and just sort of to sort of practice doing it, because the actual craft of reading a book aloud in a way that is compelling and consistent, and you don't stumble over all your words, is, I mean, that's difficult even
hmm
before you get to like the acting part of it.
hmm Well, it just requires really good diction, and I've been
Mm.
recently doing. I've stopped again now because I've lost motivation, but I've recently doing an online course for voice acting, and unfortunately, one of the big things is smokers do not get hired in the voice acting world, which is actually one of the big motivations for me to quit. Because of all the voice clicks you get with a dry mouth and a dry throat, doesn't matter how much water you drink. A well, a well experienced and experienced voice acting casting director will basically the guy says in about the sort of 5 to 10 seconds immediately be able to tell whether you smoke or not, and you won't get hired, which is amazing
Wow,
to me. Yeah, it's really incredible. Because
that's
they can,
unbelievable.
yeah, they've got the ear to be able to tell, and the amount of editing that's required to fix the voice track of a smoker is not worth it in terms of studio time and how much it would
Mm.
cost. So yeah, any budding voice actors out there who are interested in it, don't smoke. I mean, don't smoke anyway, I guess, but
Don't do
um,
it for that reason as well. Yeah.
and don't bring your gat either. All right. Nobody wants. There's no place for gats in the studio. Okay. You bring a pencil, a bottle of water, and maybe a script that you've been sent.
I
No weapons.
I bet Notorious B.I.G. brought the Gat to the studio
Do
many
you,
times.
do you think he might have done?
Yes,
Well,
definitely. I don't think he.
somebody should have told him that it's unnecessary, right?
Yeah, I guess, but he was a big star. So
Let's get. Thank you for bringing that up, Phil. That puts me in a good light. I love being able to show off about things that I've done
no,
well.
I just think it's. I think it's one of the best things about. I mean, it's just one. It's a really nice thing about your family is you all put a lot of effort in. I mean, the Reeveses, we are by contrast a cold and Spartan people, where the Cumminses are very loving and caring towards each other and really go in for Christmas, and it's very nice.
Well, if a little, sometimes. I mean, I'm happy to admit now that I've been spoiled in my life.
I
I
mean,
was gonna say if you want to like going forward with your description of your family, I was gonna say that in Lord of the Rings terms, you're very much like the elves, and we're very much like the Shire folk.
I don't think that's true. I like
Yeah, cold and logical,
just like
enlightened.
I don't think that's true at all.
Yeah, otherwise, Samwise.
Oh, you'll be not dropping no eaves, sir.
Oh, it's up in the leaves.
Little
Oh,
bit late
I was.
for trimming the verge.
I've actually started reading the book recently, and I
Oh,
didn't
it's so
know that.
good.
What I didn't realize is that Sam is the son of Frodo's gardener,
Yeah,
or
he's his servant.
Bilbo's gardener. Yeah.
Frodo is an aristocrat, as are
hmm
Merry and Pippin. They are old money, Merry and Pippin, and Frodo is kind of nouveau riche because of, well, I think
Bilbo.
he's rich before, but like, yeah, because of Bilbo and his the money he brought back to the Shire. And Sam is like he's his gardener and his sort of servant.
But it makes a lot more sense. Their relationship in the films and in the books, and consequently the films, makes a lot more sense
Hmm.
when you understand that dynamic.
But
Because he
also,
does. There are times when he does treat him like almost like a lower class citizen.
yeah, because he is.
Yeah,
If you also they spend about 80 years in the Shire, don't they? Like I can't remember how long it is, but
yeah.
he
That's the other
gets
thing I was going to say. Once the party happens and Gandalf leaves the ring in Frodo's possession, a good number of decades pass
yeah,
before Gandalf comes back, and Gandalf comes back with like, oh no, that's not true. No, when Gandalf initially comes, he brings like 8 dwarves with him who like carry in all the fireworks and festival stuff that he brings, and I'm like, well, where are they in the film? They're not there.
yeah. To be fair, I think that is a pretty central and useful omission from the film because I think it does confuse things. And actually, the beginning of the film, I think, is my favourite bit of the whole movie.
Uh-huh.
Is the party, Bilbo saying about the 11th birthday and his funny speech.
Uh-huh.
It's just perfect. Like I think they really nail it, and
I
it
don't know if I know not everyone is a fan of Lord of the Rings, but I don't know if there's a film that's kind of nailed it so well. I don't know. Maybe that, I mean, that's opinion, but it's the tone of it is so well set. Like
they're three just excellent films. And I think, yeah, the books have a lot of like richness that isn't in the films, so they're very different, and they have a
yeah,
lot of funny things like all the songs they sing. There's so many songs. The
in the
Hobbits,
books.
yeah, they're like I listened to the audiobook actually of it, and
Okay.
there's the guy that does it has to sort of sing all these funny little like Hobbit walking songs at the start. You're like, what? Why are you doing this?
Yeah, that's cool.
That's not in the film, but if it was in the film, I think it wouldn't suit the style that they
No,
go for.
you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Well, I mean, once you've read the book, you realize that the beginning of the film is almost rushed.
mm,
But then when you haven't read the book and you watch the film, it doesn't feel like it, and that in itself is quite an achievement, I believe, personally.
yeah. The
I
pacing
mean,
is pretty good, I
the
think.
pacing's really good, and if you've watched The Hobbit, I think you can see everything that could have gone wrong with Lord of the Rings. Like,
Yeah,
and I think that's in a way, it's kind of the Hobbit wasn't all bad because of that fact. Because you can see, not that the Hobbit was all bad. Sure, it had some like endearing moments or whatever. But yeah, the fact that Lord of the Rings hit the nail on the head so well. I mean, the casting. Whoever the casting director for Lord of the Rings is should have. I hope they won an award. They should get a
probably.
fucking medal.
Yeah,
It was just. I mean, I just like you can't put a. There's no one in that film who's badly cast. I don't think. Can you think of
no.
anyone?
I think people criticize Legolas,
People. I was just about to say people criticize
and
Legolas.
but I
Yeah.
think he is honestly just he is just working with the material he has. I don't think Orlando Bloom is like a necessarily the most captivating screen presence, but like he doesn't do badly, I think. And the only reason he's supposed to be kind of ethereal and otherworldly, he's an elf,
Hmm.
like
He's also supposed to be smug.
yeah, and he's supposed to deliver these lines like "A red sun rises, blood has been spilled this night." Is it
Yeah.
like perfectly straight faced?
Yeah.
Like
And
how
he's
on earth
like
is he supposed to do that?
it's easier to establish someone with reverence when, like when they go to the Gladriel or whatever in the forest, and
Mm,
they are immediately that's like all they are to some extent,
yeah,
apart from the jarring moments. Whereas he kind of, because he's on the journey with them, and he's basically one of the fellowship. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure there are legitimate criticisms to
yeah.
Orlando Blues performance, but I like it didn't stand out to me as
I really think it's fine, and I think yeah, you could
it's
recast it.
fine.
No, but like that. What you said is that no one is miscast. I think is true. I don't think I would go through and say, oh yeah, like change Orlando Bloom and replace him with someone else. Like, I think he was pretty like his performance is good enough that I can't imagine another actor playing him,
Hmm.
and that's probably a sign of like yeah,
Yeah,
well, a job well done. You know.
absolutely. And I mean, also like also massive like props to the makeup and costume department because they like make everyone real. Also, like Sean Bean as Boromir is like the fucking cherry on top of that whole
Yeah,
film for me. Like I absolutely love Sean Bean. In
yeah, me
fact, I've
too.
been really wanting to watch Sharp because I know that he's the protagonist in that, and he's a
Maybe
he's a
that should be
gem of an
homework
actor.
for before next podcast because I've not seen it either, but I love those sorts of programs. Like Hornblower is my absolute jam. So yeah,
Yeah, okay. Well, maybe we should both watch the first episode of Sharp.
we can review it.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually had some things I wanted to talk about in this, but we've very seemingly quickly come to the end of our
Yeah.
allotted hour. When you sent me that song, I really wish we could play it, but obviously there's like copyright stuff. I'm pretty sure you can. We've talked about this before, but I'm pretty sure you can play anything you want as long as you're not making money off it. Um,
Mm,
but in the crazy world where we might one day start making money off something like this, and we wanted to release these as whatever they are, like a back catalog or whatever, if
mm.
we couldn't then monetize them then. So really, really, not playing copyrighted music is an investment in our future, Philip.
Yeah. I think we're sort of practicing right now, aren't we?
No, this is it. This is as good as it gets.
I think we're getting better.
Do you?
Yeah,
I
I've
think
got
we've
my
got
microphones up.
worse.
No, I don't think so. I think we're getting better all the time because it's like
It's
just
getting
remembering how
better
to
all the
talk for an hour.
time.
Anyway.
What? No, I'm only kidding. I think we're bloody great. I think if we sent one of these to the BBC and they didn't put us on radio, I think that would be like almost blasphemous. Bringing it back round to the whole
If you said
religious starting point.
yeah,
Back to Judas, actually.
BBC, more like I was trying to fit Judas in there, but it really doesn't work.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Baby Judas. Baby
Yeah, no.
Judas. Baby Judas. Can you imagine in like something like Mario Kart? It's like
Baby Mario, Baby Judas.
Baby Judas. He's like wearing like a little white toga or something. Long hair. Oh, I don't know. I just imagine they all
Oh,
look like Jesus.
well, he's a baby, so I don't know how long his hair would be, but yeah, maybe he came out with a full on.
Well, I mean, clearly, like the baby thing in those games is more about cutesy than it is about
Mm,
like anatomically like a
you're
baby.
right. You're right.
Yeah,
Baby Mario is not literally what Mario looked like as a baby.
yeah. I mean, he can drive a fucking car,
Yeah,
so I don't know. There must be, yeah, some sort of
that is
alternative
true.
universe where you could develop motor skills very early on, but you remain looking cutesy. I don't know. Anyway, I actually had stuff that I wanted to bring up about Pokemon because I've been playing it a lot recently, but I'll save that for next time. I need to write it down so I don't
All
forget.
right, nice. Yeah, yeah, that
And
sounds good.
you keep your list as well.
Well,
And
it will quickly become irrelevant, but I'll keep some of it. Okay.
okay, all right. Well, if it's and you can let us know how what happens with Ruth's birthday present.
Yeah,
To
I
be fair,
can.
make it good.
I don't think it's going to be good, but the card is all right. So I'm feeling good now. Do you ever get that? You feel stressed out. You're like, oh, I really need to do this. Like, when am I going to have time to do it? I had a whole weekend on my own, so it was actually absolute piece of piss. But sometimes you're like, oh, when am I going to manage to do this? And then after you manage to like put a bit of time in, you're like, right, well, I've done an amount of effort. I'm looking forward to giving this to the person now, rather than being stressed about giving it to them. And that's a much
Hmm.
nicer place to be.
Much nicer. In fact, when you start feeling like you're looking forward to giving it to him, that's when you know you've like
Yeah.
done enough good work with it. All
Well,
right then.
all
Well,
right.
let's call it. Let's call it. It's been Ollie and Phil doing another bloody podcast,
Oh,
and we'll see you next time.
yeah. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.